Hey, Monday, November 25th. This is going to be advanced class. We're getting into Outsiders. Information behind me, we see up there. Book report book, doing it at 2.5 weeks. Let's see, you're going to have reading in Outsiders probably starting tomorrow night, so I'll wait forever to get started. Again, I handed back tests today. If you are gone today, you can get your test back tomorrow or next week. Test corrections, you can go through and start doing that. Information's on my website. Follow directions there, and then you can download the test there, and then the things there. All right. And then also on website, we went through, I see you, I'm just ignoring you at the moment. On my website, there is an ebook, which is up there, but if you go to the Outsiders page, I have audiobook ones. We just went to it now, but I can't because you're not here. But you can just hit the play button for each one of these. You just tap on the file, and it opens up and just starts playing. And if you want audiobook version, you're more than welcome to listen to that. Blizz!
Okay. So, for book report, you said we should secretaries on just don't have pleasantries.
Good stuff. So back to our Outsiders. Who is our main character talking to us? Pony Boy. We had just found out his name, like right before we stopped on Friday. And then, what group is Pony Boy a part of? Who is it that there's trying to hunt them down? What does SOCH stand for? Socials. Good job. You guys just like saying the wrong answer loudly. So proud of you. So we have the socials. Story begins with him at a movie theater where we got to, we already did that with the highlighting. We'll talk about that in a moment. Blue Eyes himself. Now whenever you guys eat salad dressing, hopefully you see this. It makes you think of Outsiders and it comes back to haunt you. And then we got to him and the group we're trying to get to introducing in a moment. There's our greasery people. There's our socially people. And then we get to the red Corvair. Who's in the red Corvair? Nicely done. The Soches are in the car, and they jump out. What are these Soches wanting to do with Pony Boy? Give him a haircut. Sorry, I have to switch things around.
Eat his soul.
They want you big hurt him.
Big hurt him.
We have the red Corvair, and then he thinks about, I found pictures of a busted pop bottle to help you out, of smashing a pop bottle to get into the fight to try and help protect himself. Again, if this happens to you this weekend, because you know you have family coming into town, you're like, let's throw down. Don't use a plastic one. I mean, maybe with family you should use a plastic one. Unless they're really sassy, then you can break the glass one. You're like, let's go, fool. And so that's what would make things a little bit easier on you, or harder. And then this is where they catch him, which is the empty lot, which plays a big role in the story. They're going to talk about it multiple times. Just the spot where no house is being built. There's an example of one that used to be here in Fishers. Now there's a house there. As I found out last year, he was like, that's my house. And I'm like, it's an empty lot. He's like, my house is there now. And so then we get to there, and all the other ones showing up. Madras, who's wearing Madras? Because of, you guys just like saying that. I keep setting you guys up for that one. What is it the Soches are wearing that he smells? And so you have the English leather cologne and the tobacco.
Can we smell again?
No, not yet. And then the tobacco, which again, I don't have that for you this weekend when family comes in town. And so I just have that one. Again, if you want to smell it at the end of class, come see me. Or again, if you're a dude and need help with the ladies, come let me know. Give you a little splashy. By the way, it's strong enough that even inside there, I can like smell it through the box. Because it's got to be strong, because the ladies love it. Then we're going to talk about two things in a moment. They're going to talk about Derry's cowlick. If you don't know what a cowlick is, it's where you have hair that you can't comb. Like every time you try to comb it down, your hair is like, pachoo! It's called a cowlick because it looked like a cow had licked your head. Blah. And when it does that, cows have apparently really sticky saliva. And it's just like, pachoo! It just stick up. Like, a cow lick your head? Like, that's a genius name, cow! So it's called a cowlick. The other thing that's going to happen is we're going to have someone who cocks an eyebrow. And if you don't know what cocking an eyebrow is we have the one that goes down, the one that pops up like that. And so I have the different ones. The one here with the guy from Toy Story, that was from Toy Story number 2 when he goes into Spanish mode. And he's like, hola, ¿cómo está? And it's like his eyebrow pops up, so it made me smile. And apparently that's back when The Rock, and he was trying to figure out what he can smell what he's cooking. And apparently that guy up there lives in a phone booth. And I have no idea who the lady there is, except that she popped up when I Googled cocking an eyebrow, and I was like, that is awesome. So I added her to it. Herbert.
Okay, did you know that Mike Wazowski with the straight face has 2 eyes? I never knew that. What? No.
Right. And then back to us here. I believe we left off on, before we get to page 6, because I shared the things that I've underlined as far as the connections. Any things that you guys, I went through there multiple times, I've shared the things that connect to me about the students and things along those lines. Because I talked about having good grades and having that high IQ, and I said like I was a goody-goody when I was a kid and stuff like that. I was. I got better. I did. Hence was. That's how past tense works. Any ones that you guys have highlighted that you would like to share so far? Because if not, we'll come back again. Happy?
2 things. Does Alpha have a cowlick?
He does.
And
I should add his picture up there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I would like to share.
Yeah, what you got?
It says I was dizzy.
Yes?
I am dizzy.
Just all the time? There might be a medical condition you should look into. No. Towels.
I highlighted, I make good grades and have a high IQ, but I don't use my head. And I put me and all of my siblings.
Well, I look forward to seeing how your sister does at basketball then. Way to talk her up on that one. Riley.
I highlighted, but I usually loan it anyway because I don't know. I just rather be by myself most of the time.
I can dig that. Friends are overrated. Casper.
I highlighted I love soda because I like soda, but I can't drink it.
That is not weird. And Robot.
I highlighted never grow up at all, and I related it to my older brother.
Shots fired and accurately aimed. Well done. I taught older brother, so yeah. So now back to page 6. Let's go from there. I will continue to show you the parts I underlined, and we'll give Abby us more chance to share. It says, "Where are you, all right, Pony Boy?" That first little short one. Are you all right, Pony Boy? Derry's what we're talking about. Derry was shaking me, and I wished he'd stop. I was dizzy enough anyway. I could tell it was Derry, though, partly because of the voice, and partly because Derry is always rough with me without meaning to be. I'm okay. Quit shaking me, Derry. I'm okay. He stopped instantly. I'm sorry. He wasn't really. Derry isn't ever sorry for anything he does. I mean, it seems funny to me that he should look just exactly like my father and act exactly the opposite from him. My father was only 40 when he died, and he looked 25, and a lot of people thought Derry and Dad were brothers instead of father and son. But they only looked alike. My father was never rough with anyone without meaning to be. Derry is 6'2", broad-shouldered, muscular. See, like that's an example of one that you guys would all highlight and then put my name out to the side. It's okay. I understand.
What I do for my TikTok.
He has dark brown hair that kicks out in front and a slight cowlick in the back, just like Dad's. But Derry's eyes are his own. He's got eyes that are like 2 pieces of pale blue-green ice. They've got a determined set to them, like the rest of them. He looks older than 20. Tough, cool, smart. He'd be real handsome if his eyes weren't so cold. He doesn't understand anything that's not plain, hard fact. But he uses his head. And I sat down again, rubbing my cheek where I'd been slugged the most. And Derry jammed his fist in his pockets. They didn't hurt you too bad, did they? They did. I was smarting and aching, and my chest was sore, and I was so nervous. My hands were shaking, and I wanted to start bawling. But you don't say that to Derry. By the way, bawling, not bawling, but bawling here means
Crying
Yeah,
really badly.
tears.
I just heard that because I was like,
yeah, not bawling. I'm okay. Soda Pop came loping back. By then, I'd figured that all the noise I'd heard was the gang coming to rescue me. He dropped down beside me, examining my head. You got caught up a little. It's like, you got cut up a little. Huh, Pony Boy. I only looked at him blankly. I did? He pulled out a handkerchief and wet the end of it with his tongue. Pressed it gently against the side of my head. You're bleeding like a stuck pig. I am? Look! He showed me the handkerchief, reddened as if by magic. Did they pull a blade on you? I remembered the voice. You need a haircut, greaser. The blade must have slipped while he was trying to shut me up. Yeah. Soda is handsomer than anyone else I know. Again, there, I'm assuming you write some random TikToker on there that you guys creepily follow. It's okay. Not like Derry. Soda's movie star kind of handsome. The kind that people stop on the street to watch go by. He's not as tall as Derry. He's a little slimmer, but he has a finely drawn, sensitive face that somehow manages to be reckless and thoughtful at the same time. He's got dark gold hair that he combs back, long and silky and straight. And in the summer, the sun bleaches it to a shining wheat gold. His eyes are dark brown, lively, dancing, recklessly laughing eyes that can be gentle and sympathetic one moment and blazing with anger the next. He has Dad's eyes, but Soda's one of a kind. He can get drunk in a drag race or dancing without ever getting near alcohol. In our neighborhood, it's rare to find a kid who doesn't drink once in a while, but Soda never touches a drop. He doesn't need to. He gets drunk on just plain living, and he understands everybody. Andre?
What does smarting mean?
Hurting. Like if you're in pain, so if I can smack your arm, that smart, it just means to hurt. Casper?
I think that Soda doesn't need alcohol because he already has soda.
Way to point at people afterwards. So with that line where they talk about the one that Casper brought up, him being drunk but not drinking alcohol. Do you know what that's saying about him?
He's crazy. He likes to
Not bad. Yeah. There's some people who feel they need to drink at parties. Like, I could never go talk to a girl. I'd be too embarrassed. If I have alcohol, how are you going to do it? And they go up and talk. Soda is the kind that just doesn't matter. When everyone else is like, I could never talk to her. Soda's like, I'll do it. And just walks over and starts talking. Always smiling, outgoing. So he sort of acts like he's drunk just because he's just happy on life. So where everyone else has to have alcohol, so does the kid that never does. He's just always happy, always outgoing, always friendly. You know, because of the soda pop he's always drinking. He looked at me more closely. I looked away hurriedly because if you want to know the truth, I was starting to bawl. I knew I was as white as I felt, and I was shaking like a leaf. What's that an example of? I was shaking like a leaf. Nicely done. Ooh, comparing what two things?
Pony
Boy and a leaf. Nicely done. Soda just put his hand on my shoulder. Easy, Pony Boy. They ain't gonna hurt you no more. I know, I said. But the ground began to blur, and I felt hot tears running down my cheeks. I brushed them away impatiently. I'm just a little spook, that's all. I drew a quivering breath and quit crying. You just don't cry in front of Derry. I mean, not unless you're hurt like Johnny had been that day we found him in the vacant lot. Compared to Johnny, I wasn't hurt at all. Soda rubbed my hair. You're an okay kid, Pony. I had to grin at him. Soda can make you grin no matter what. I guess it's because he's always grinning so much himself. You're crazy, Soda. Out of your mind. Derry looked as if he'd like to knock our heads together. You're both nuts. Soda merely cocked one eyebrow. Picture up there again to help you. A trick he'd picked up from Two-Bit. Seems to run in the family. Derry stared at him for a second and then cracked a grin. Soda Pop just isn't afraid of him like everyone else and enjoys teasing him. I'd just as soon tease a full-grown grizzly. But for some reason, Derry seems to like being teased by Soda. Our gang had chased the Socias to their car and heaved rocks at him. They came running toward us now. 4 lean, hard guys. They were all as tough as nails and looked it. I'd grown up with them. And they accepted me, even though I was younger, because I was Derry and Soda's kid brother. I kept my mouth shut good. I'm going to pop this screen up on occasion to help you guys out with all the different names and connections to try and hopefully make things make a bit more sense as you look up there. Now, Steve Randall, 17, he's tall and lean with thick, greasy hair he kept combed in complicated swirls. He was cocky, smart, and Soda's best buddy since grade school. Steve's specialty was cars. He could lift a hubcap quicker and more quietly than anyone in the neighborhood. But he also knew cars upside down and backward. And he could drive anything on wheels. He and Soda worked at the same gas station. Steve part-time and Soda full-time. And their station got more customers than any other one in town. Whether that was because Steve was so good with cars or because Soda attracted girls like honey draws flies, I couldn't tell you. I liked Steve only because he was Soda's best friend. He didn't like me. He thought I was a tag-along and a kid. Soda always took me with them when they went places, if they weren't taking girls, and that bugged Steve. It wasn't my fault. Soda always asked me. I didn't ask him. Soda doesn't think I'm a kid. With Steve, they talk about him lifting hubcaps. Step 1, you know what a hubcap is? What's a hubcap?
It's the thing on like the tire.
Not bad. So thing on tire, works something like that. Brought in an example one.
Did you just like rip?
I did rip this off the grass that I found when I was running for the cross country. So this is what a hubcap is. So they go on the wheels at one time. They made the cars like all fancy. Nowadays, we don't have hubcaps as much. Usually it's more wheels and spinners and stuff like that. But back in the day, you'd have a nice metal hubcap. This one's not. It's plastic. But you'd have like metal hubcaps that were all fancy. So if it says Steve is lifting hubcaps, do you know what Steve is doing? Yeah, stealing them. So you go up to a car that has a hubcap on it, and you take your screwdriver, and you go hickey, 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 and you pop it off, and then you lift it, and then you run away giggling, and you go sell it to other people. And your goal usually was to pop off all 4 hubcaps, grab all of them, and then you sell them to someone else to make their car look fancy. You'd put them into your big trench coat, and like, you want to buy a hubcap? It's like, ding, 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 ding. You have like all these hubcaps, and then you try to sell them to other people. Nowadays, no good. Because they're plastic, and you get them for like $1 at like probably actually the dollar store. And so like they're no longer. So if you're trying to figure out like a weekend hobby, like I'm going to make bank, it's not going to do you any good. So don't go out and steal hubcaps. You're not going to make any money from it. No one's going to buy them. But back in the day, if you were an aspiring criminal, it's where you could go popping up hubcaps and selling them to other people. Dreams come true. Oh, in a moment, they're going to talk about this guy, Will Rogers. He is a comedian from way back in the old days. He was also a cowboy, like had like his own cowboy TV show, but he also had a bunch of quips and was good at like being sassy to people and stuff like that. So in a moment, they're going to talk about one of them being like all sassy and funny, and they mention Will Rogers. It's this guy. 2-Bit Matthews was the oldest of the gang and the wisecracker of the bunch. He was about 6 feet tall, stocky in build, and very proud of his long, rusty-colored sideburns. Again, not beard, which is what I have. Sideburns is just the part that comes down there. He had gray eyes and a wide grin, and he couldn't stop making funny remarks to save his life. You couldn't shut up that guy. He always had to get his 2 bits worth in, hence his name. Even his teachers forgot his real name was Keith. We hardly remembered he had one. Life was one big joke to 2-Bit. He was famous for shoplifting and his black-handled switchblade, which he couldn't have acquired without his first talent. And he was always smarting off to the cops. Quick pause. You guys know what shoplifting is? Stealing from a store. Again, hopefully not a weekend hobby that you have. But yes, that is something that 2-Bit does. They're going to talk about him doing on a regular basis is shoplifting. And apparently that's how he got his black-handled switchblade, which we're going to talk about tomorrow, because apparently he stole it. And he was always smarting off to the cops. He really couldn't help it. Everything he said was so irresistibly funny that he just had to let the police in on it to brighten up their dull lives. At least that's the way he explained it to me. He liked fights, blondes, and for some unfathomable reason, school. He was still a junior at 18 and a half, and he never learned anything. He just went for kicks. I liked him real well because he kept us laughing at ourselves, as well as at other things. He reminded me of Will Rogers. Maybe it was the grin. Do you guys know what grade in school a junior is? Does it say?
The one before senior.
That's below senior.
A junior is 11th grade. So that's where you should be around 16 years old, sometimes 16 to 17. So if he's 18 and a half, so he's a few years past. I'm assuming 2-Bit's been held back a couple times. But he still doesn't hate school because much like Soda Pop, who's friendly and outgoing, 2-Bit's even more so. Nothing but giggles and happiness. If I had to pick the real character of the gang, it'd be Dallas Winston. I think I have that screen. There you go. Dally. I used to like to draw his picture when he was in a dangerous mood, for then I could get his personality down in just a few lines. He had an elfish face with high cheekbones and a pointed chin, small, sharp animal teeth, and ears like a lynx. His hair was almost white. It was so blonde, and he didn't like haircuts or hair oil either, so it fell over his forehead in wisps and kicked out in the back in tufts and curled behind his ears and along the nape of his neck. His eyes were blue, blazing eyes, cold with a hatred of the whole world. Dally had spent 3 years on the wild side of New York and been arrested at the age of 10. He was tougher than the rest of us. Tougher, colder, meaner. The shade of difference that separates a greaser from a hood wasn't present in Dally. He was as wild as the boys in the downtown outfits, like Tim Shepard's gang. We're going to come back to this screen again tomorrow as I'm going through and explaining everybody. But I'm going to stop there because the bells are going to ring partway through that paragraph, and there's things in that paragraph we have to talk about. Tomorrow's we'll end up getting to the whole having to have you guys read on your own at some point, but we're not there yet. For now, it is still a matter of just going through and reading book report book. We'll figure out what more you have highlighted. We also get the joy of Magic Lynn's game show tomorrow. For those of you who are looking excited to learning some game showy things, we get to help you out from there. Those of you at home, be less dead, come back. Good stuff. Those of you randomly standing up, don't make me charge you points, be mean to you.